Hi, this is Kate. This is Tessa. And she is the guard dog at the mother ranch. And her brother Duke was also a guard dog. Yeah, and he passed. And then Tessa's kind of taken over. And she watches out for the goats. For a while, she watched out for the sheep. And she keeps them safe. And so she barks at anyone that comes to the ranch to let everyone know that there's people around. And so for a couple of years, she used to bark at me, and so did Duke. And every time I got here, and I was always really nervous. Their barks were really intense, and I was nervous about them. I felt like they were fierce dogs, and I always thought they were potentially dangerous dogs, and so I just kind of always kept my distance. I was told, don't put my hands through the fence, don't come say hi to them. And then one day, a fellow boarder who was friends with both the dogs just walked me in with them, like, no big deal, let's just go in and say hi. And so I was really nervous at first, and then very quickly there was just like a bond and trust established, and I see Tessa as a total queen being. She's very clear, she's a healer, she's a fierce protector, but she's very loving as well. And so my fear dissipated, and then I started to wonder why I was even afraid in the first place. But ultimately, that is kind of what fear is: false evidence appearing real. And I really thought that this is a dangerous dog, and she can be, of course. I've seen her growl and play fight with her brother. I've seen her bark off what she would think would be like a predator. And that's really what she's here for, is to make sure that the coyotes don't get in here and bother any of the goats, and for a while the sheep. And so she's just doing her job. But for a while I was just so terrified, and I didn't know why I was so terrified. Hi, Gigi. And so I finally got to that point of getting over it, and it dissipated really quick, as I mentioned. Her and I have had this wonderful relationship ever since. And if I didn't get over my fear, I would never have gotten to have a relationship with her. She would have always just been this animal that, and I am not really afraid of dogs. I've never been afraid of dogs except for this one German Shepherd growing up that they put down, actually, because he had attacked and killed a couple different beings and other animals, and had attacked humans, and so they ended up putting him down. And I was scared of him, and of German Shepherds a little bit too. But it makes me think about what we are missing out on in life when we have fear, right? And a lot of people come to the horses and they're afraid of them. Even if they like them, even if they've been around horses before, they can still feel a little intimidated by them because of their size and their power. And of course, horses are dangerous. I mean, there's a lot of bone, there's a lot of muscle there, there's a lot of weight, and they can do things that we all know. They could step on us, run us over, bite, kick, all that stuff. It's all there, right? Any animal technically can do any of that. It's just their size is so much bigger than, like, if you were to get run over by this little goat girl, Godiva, it would feel very different. And I have actually been knocked over by a goat. So it doesn't feel great, but it would be very different than getting knocked over by a horse. And so I've really helped people overcome their fear of horses, and so beautiful to watch, because now people can have a different relationship with horses and a different relationship with themselves, because as you face your fear with any animal, you can take it out of this arena, out of this field, out of this pasture, into the arena of your life and deal with fear elsewhere. Whether it's fear of public speaking, fear of asking for a promotion. These are things I work with a lot of women on. Or fear of ending a marriage. There's tons of things that we're afraid of. Fear of being successful, fear of failure, fear of being bigger than we are. And horses often help us with that too. they ask us to get bigger. They ask us to be willing to set boundaries and get stronger, and just to gain their respect. So, you know, I love this dog who's now kind of laying here by my lap. She wags her tail when I come in. She still doesn't bark at me that much at all anymore. It's more a bark of like, hey, hi, are you coming in? And I think she knows how much I love these animals, that I want them protected as well. And I always thank her for doing her job and taking care of my girls, because I can't, you know, be here to protect them from coyotes, nor, you know, that's not my job either. That's hers. And so, you know, and she has sacrifices for it. I think she's a dog that would like to live inside. She's got a lot of princess energy. She loves kind of being pet, and I think that, you know, she lives outside, which is really, you know, I think it's hard for a lot of dogs. It would be hard for me to have a dog live outside. I don't know if I could honestly do it. But when you have a farm and you have livestock that you need to protect, there's, you know, it is the best way out of all the different predator protection. We've done a lot of research. So these goats are making a lot of noise here. You can see what's happening. I'm getting, they're using my chair as a scratching post. So that's what that is. So yeah, so, you know, the fear of things can be healthy, right? Like, I wouldn't want just anyone to walk right up to Tessa when she's barking aggressively and just be like, grab her head and be like, hi, because she will go, hey, no, not okay. Like, she'll set her boundary, and she can, you know, bite and snap if she doesn't know you. She doesn't know what your intentions are. But it was 2 years of me not having a relationship with her and me not really wanting to deal with my fear of her until one day I was ready to do it, and then it was ready to lift. And that's the other thing about fear. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm never going to be rid of this fear. And honestly, sometimes fear can lift really quickly, really easily. Right, Curly? And it's not such a big deal, or it doesn't have to be such a big deal. And so we can just be willing to let it go. We can be willing to work on it. We can be willing to face it. And that's a lot of it, is showing up and facing it, facing the fear, staying present with yourself while you do it, you know, having compassion for yourself that you've even had fear in the first place. Fear is natural, but we don't want it to block relationships. That's really what it comes down to. And one of my biggest fears is like fear of being hurt, right? And so sometimes I notice I'll even guard myself from, you know, certain people because I don't want to be hurt. So whereas, you know, when we're really just being in our loving, there's really not much that can hurt us, because the energy and the intention is just to be coming from a place of love. And that in itself is a protection, right? Vulnerability is a form of protection because it kind of bonds us and creates connection, and because of the authenticity that's there with vulnerability. So, you know, I think it's time to just kind of examine, is there something in your life that maybe you're afraid of that you don't really need to be? If you are afraid of horses and you don't want to be anymore, I'm happy to work with you. Is one of my favorite things, is to see the transformation of people who were previously really just scared of horses. For reasons, specific reasons, like maybe they've actually been through some sort of challenge or trauma with a horse in the past. I've had that with a lot of clients, or just a misunderstanding really about who horses are, and thinking that, oh, they're so big, so their power is going to be too much. And you know, I had a misunderstanding about her. I had a healthy respect of her. I still have a healthy respect of her. I'm not going to walk in here and, you know, like grab her suddenly, because she'll be like, excuse me, and she'll go, you know, potentially into an attack mode with me. And I trust her completely now, but there are certain things that I'm just not going to do because you know, just of her training and her deep protection mode that she goes into. So yeah, she's taught me quite a bit about how love and acceptance and trust can come and that creates relationship, and the fear really blocks it. And so I'm so grateful that in this last year or so here before she leaves for North Carolina, that I've gotten to know this beautiful dog, and I've written a poem about her because her energy of that fierce loving and that fierce protector. It's a mother energy, the mother bear, and I actually call her Tessa Bear because I see her as that. I see her as this incredible mother bear. And it's funny to watch. Some of the goats are a little intimidated by her as well, so they'll actually like run from her, or they'll stay away from her. And then someone like Godiva, who's just naturally very trusting in the first place, she she'll be right next to her. She'll sit with her. She would sit with Duke too, and even Sparkles, my girl right there. They're totally okay. They'll come right up to her, and I have one hand petting Tessa and another hand petting one of the goats. And not all the goats are like that. Some of them just kind of scatter and move back right away when she comes in, because she does have a larger energy. But it's also helped me to understand too, like what intimidation looks like, and also that, even people who have a big bark don't necessarily have any bite in them. And we have to maybe just look past that mask or that self-protection energy that they're doing, because it's their own defense mechanisms. And really, I've met quite a few people, especially in my entertainment career, where it was way more bark than bite. And without a doubt, Tessa can do both, but she's just pure love under that facade of protection. And it's not a facade, it's a real job. And it's like police officers and others, they are intimidating for a reason, because we're not supposed to mess with them at all. They're really serving a form of protection for humanity, and she is doing it for the animals at the ranch. So anyways, hope that little story of how I shifted things might help you, so you can shift your own fear. And please reach out if you're ready to let go of your fear of horses.